So here's where it begins. If you haven't guessed, I'm doing some baking, which isn't a new side quest for me because I've made a few cakes in my day, but I haven't made this kind of cake, so I'm counting it anyway. Here's a pro tip. Anytime a recipe tells me to grease and flour a baking pan, I'm going to grease and sugar it. Sugar keeps the cake from sticking like flour, plus it tastes good and it gives the outside edge a nice little crispiness. Here's where I realized I set the timer on the stove instead of preheating the oven. Watch me shake my head at myself. I guess it's better than the other day when I put a casserole in and promptly turned the oven off. Anyway, let's get into it. We got flour, we got sugar, cocoa powder, baking powder, and baking soda. Fun fact, they are not the same. And a little bit of salt. Anyway, mixy, and here's the secret ingredient for my chocolate cake, just a pinch of espresso powder. Then we stop for a coffee break. Ah, that's better. Then you add your wet ingredients. Milk, oil, vanilla. See how carefully I measure the vanilla? Not at all. Don't forget the eggs. And a cup of boiling hot water. That hot water is going to start baking the eggs while mixing. It's going to make the cake nice and fluffy. Pour it into our greased and sugared pans and into the oven that I checked is actually preheated. Meanwhile, we're going to work on the decorations. Here's where my little camera decided to have some problems that I didn't notice. Ernie, that's my camera's name, has a gimbal to stabilize the shot, but unfortunately, every time the gimbal moves, it's shifting the camera on the tray, and when the camera shifts, the gimbal tries to stabilize again. So what you're seeing is my camera having a complete and total meltdown. It's not an earthquake. That would have been cooler. Anyway, sorry if it's making you sick. So today I'm working with fondant, which is considered a type of icing, but really it's like edible Play-Doh. And personally, I'm not a huge fan. It looks great, but I don't love the flavor or the texture. I'd rather have a delicious, ugly cake than a beautiful, disgusting cake. For instance, here's the first fondant cake I ever made. Gorgeous, right? But still, fondant equals gross. Here's the first time I tried a drippy thing with some piping, and it was a wreck. It wasn't even. But man, it was so good. Again, here's the lovely black cake. Here is a wonky wampa with lemon curd filling and mascarpone frosting. It was so delicious. So now I have to get it to the right color, and for this I'm going to need a nice dark kind of green. And this is not it. So add a little more bright green and try again, and that's basically how it goes. Add a little color, blend it in until you get something that looks like this. Oh my gosh, we fixed the camera. Thank goodness. I was feeling queasy. Okay, still blending, so let's just scoot through this as quick as we can. Next, we have to make some things that look like they might be dragon wings or ears or fins or something. I won't show you how many times I started over again for this part. I have a bunch of different specialty tools to help me work with fondant. They might look like the kind of tools that come in a Play-Doh set, but these are special. And after that, we're moving on to the scales, which means cutting out 1 billion of these little circles. And I'm already getting bored, so we're going to speed this up too. Okay, you get the point. And we're going to make these scales look a bit more scaly by rolling out just 1/2 of the circle, which thins them out and gives them a natural looking oval quality. You might be asking yourself, what exactly is the plan here? Well, as you might have guessed by now, we're making a dragon out of our cake, and that is the full extent of my plan. Seriously, I'm just putting bits together and hoping it looks something like a dragon when I'm done. Why? Why do I do these things? It's called ADHD. You might have heard of it. The next day, it's up to me and my helper to get these bits on the cake looking something like a dragon, and I've given myself barely an hour to work with before this party starts. My helper is rolling out tiny dots and I'm putting the wings/ears/fins on the cake, which means cutting into the cake, and there's no going back after that. It either works or it doesn't. And you'll see. Then I guess this dragon will need some eyes, which are blue because that's the color I already had available without making more. And here I decided it wasn't enough to have eyes. It also needed some eyebrows, something to pull it all together. Because I don't have any time left, this is what I'm doing. Here's where the ear starts to fail. It only gets worse from here, but look at those eyes. While we're sorting out the eyes, the ear goes into catastrophic failure. And after much finagling, both ears are staying put with the help of some strategically placed toothpicks, which is fine as long as you don't look at the back of the cake, and why would you? The eyes are mesmerizing. Anyway, my helper is putting scales around the eyes, and I'm working on the big scales everywhere else, except they won't stay on, and we're running out of time. I use water to help the fondant stick to the fondant, meaning the scales are looking very wet by the end. So I use up some more of my precious time by blow drying the cake, which I've never done before, and don't look too close at those cracked scales. This dragon has lived a hard life and it's only 1 day old. But then comes the fun part. My assistant glitterifies the dragon while I go make myself look presentable for company. And that's pretty much it. Here's the outcome, and I'm happy to say the whole thing was eaten by the end of the day. That's the best part about cake. Even if it comes out absolutely ugly, we just eat the evidence and no one has to know. Well, that's it for this side quest. If you have an idea for another side quest, you're going to have to hit me up on my Instagram. Until then, see you next time.
La 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 la, I am weird.
Is it time for a walk? You guys are crazy. Max, you want to go for a walk?
Oh gosh. Oh.